So they see eventually when they get when they finally get just completely locked into the ice, they don't know, of course, that they're going to be locked into it for the whole winter. They just so they don't start panicking or anything like that. They just treat it like a normal thing, a relatively normal thing. And they go out on the ice. They go do a bit of skiing, play a bit of football or hockey. He says. They do realise at one point that they're going to be locked into it for a while, though. You can just tell by the weather and by the ice that you're not going to get out in the next day or two, regardless of anything. So they sort of let the dogs out of the ship because the dogs are sort of packed into kennels on the ship. So they make sort of what they call dog loos, like an igloo but for dogs, and they let them out on the ice. And the dogs prefer that. The dogs love it.
I bet the dogs are thrilled. Yeah.
But they start losing dogs fairly quickly to worms.
Right.
It just says they get worms and they're so ill. Some of the dogs are so ill with worms that they have to shoot them.
God.
Yeah. Because again, being pre-World War I, World War I era,
they
haven't got like brilliant
antibiotics.
Yeah, they haven't got brilliant. Well, there's no antibiotics, right? Yeah, but they haven't even. They've got a vet, but he can't do much really for them.
The things I'd need are about 10,000 miles away.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
And they see lots of penguins, all different types of penguins, but actually emperor penguins, which are the biggest type of penguin. And Shackleton says they're, quote, curiously human. Yeah. Just in their mannerisms and the way they waddle along. And just he just says this. I think that's funny. They're curiously human. At one point, actually, just to mention, before they get stuck for the last time in the pack ice, they do actually see the land. They could have landed on the land at one point. One point they're like about 100 miles from the land,
right?
And they see the land. But Shackleton's thinking is, we want to sail as far south as we possibly can,
right?
Because every mile that you sail is a mile you don't have to manhaul stuff. And so he kicks himself. He rues the day he passed up a chance to hit land.
Yeah, he does.
Because a couple of times they could have hit land, and he decides not to because on that day the pack isn't too bad.
Just optimism.
Yeah. To begin with, when they get stuck for the last time, he keeps the boiler going in the engine room, like 24/7 for about 10 days, hoping that if at any moment a lane opens up, they can just immediately make the most of it. But after about 10 days, that he realizes this just not it's not happening. He may as well save the coal. He says they do club a few penguins and a few seals, because even though their ship, the Endurance, is still full of provisions, they want to try and save them if they possibly can.
But you don't know how long you're going to be there.
Yeah,
how desperate things might get. You know? And
we may as well, I mean, they've still got nice, good food, but we may as well feed the dogs seal steaks and blubber and liver. Liver is really, really good for men and dogs. The iron in liver. Apparently when you're stuck on the ice like that, because it's still Antarctic summer, so the sun's still up, apparently you just get loads and loads of different light effects and mirages and things.
Oh, the same sort of thing that Scott found. Right?
Yeah. Shackleton wrote, quote, "From the masthead, the mirage is continually giving us false alarms. Everything wears an aspect of unreality. Icebergs hung upside down in the sky. The land appears as layers of silvery or golden cloud. Cloud banks look like land. Icebergs masquerade as islands. And the distant barrier to the south is thrown into view, although it really is outside our range of vision. Worst of all is the deceptive appearance of open water, caused by the refraction of distant water, or by the sun shining at an angle on a field of smooth snow, or the face of ice cliffs below the horizon." They're just all sorts of different weird things. Sometimes they talk about the sun has got like a halo or a double or a triple halo around it.
Yeah, it's like sundogs and things like that. They're called strange, weird effects where like particles of water in the atmosphere or ice in the atmosphere refract the light, so you just perceive the world as being strange. But I like the description, an aspect of unreality. That's good.
Says that a few times. says that, I think that exact word a few times.
Yeah.
That it's you just sort of wouldn't, unless you've seen it with your own eyes, you wouldn't think that this would be the case.
No, I actually find it very believable because when you're a temperate creature from temperate realms and you're, designed for normal places, you get somewhere of these sort of extremes. And it's the same in the desert where you get like mirages and the heat coming off the desert, refracting like in weird ways. Like you're not used to this. You don't know what you're looking at. And I can see how it would be disorienting, and make you feel like there's something weird and kind of magical about the place.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like Scott's saying, that sometimes when the sky, because the sky can be all different colours, can't it? It can be blue, obviously, but it can be grey and overcast. But sometimes the sky's just white.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, if it's like full of like mist and ice particles and things like this.
And if there's any sort of blizzard or anything like that, the sky is essentially white. And then
if the ground is also white, then you might feel the world is kind of turning upside down and
exactly. Yeah. It's otherworldly, bizarre, and unreality. You can't see the horizon. It's just all white. As far as you can see, 360. Yeah. Every direction you look.
You've gone into the Bermuda Triangle or something.
Yeah. Yeah. At various points, they try and sort of dig themselves out. There's lots of pictures.
I was going to ask about that. Could they, at any point? I suppose they couldn't if they were stuck for a year.
Yeah. And they do take loads and loads of photographs. One of their photographer guy, Frank Hurley, must mention him, mentioned in Dispatches. He was a great photographer. Again, it's very early stuff on glass slides.
Yeah.
And there's a real art to getting a decent exposure, but he was a master at it. Some say he's one of the best of all time at that sort of thing. Really? Yeah. Okay. Frank Hurley. So we've got a fair few photos that survive. And I'll put some up so people can see, even of them trying to dig it out. There's no way you could truly dig it out, but what you could do is at least try and relieve some of the pressure.
Yeah, loosen.
And they can do it a bit, but what will happen is you could spend a couple of days of all the hands expending endless energy.
And 10 minutes, the ice moves and you're trapped again. Right.
The pack just goes, no, and just crashes up against it again in minutes flat. Yeah. And the idea of cutting a channel in front of the ship to just keep going forward, it's not going to, the amount of energy and time it takes is just not going to happen.
Tim, they didn't have some dynamite or something.
They don't. No, I don't think they have anything like that.
Yeah.
Again, they just honestly didn't expect this to happen.
Yeah, because they've been lucky the other times.
Yeah.
So
they say, the pack might get you, but eventually...
It's not that bad.
Eventually it lets you out.
Yeah.
Well, not always. They do mention orcas, orcas or gladiator orcas, they mention. Shackleton wrote, "These aggressive creatures were to be seen often in the lanes and pools, and we were always distrustful of their ability or willingness to discriminate between seal and man. A lizard-like head would show while the killer gazed along the flow with wicked eyes. Then the brute would dive, to come up a few moments later, perhaps, under some unfortunate seal reposing on the ice." So they watch them. And there's other bits where he says you see them working together. And they're... again, they've got...
Clever and sinister.
They've got the eyes of a mammal. So they're a thinking thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like the dead doll's eye of a shark.
Oh, yeah.
It's looking to see what to do and then making new plans and stuff.
Because a shark is...
really.
Sharks are terrifying, but they are at the very least essentially just a monster.
Yeah, they're dumb. They're dumb. They've got the mind of a fish.
Yeah, exactly. But an orca, as you say, it's a mammal. It's smart. And they are smart. That's the thing. They're genuinely smart.
Yeah.
So if it's thinking, look at this weird thing that I could eat.
Yeah.
They're giant and they've got serrated teeth. They eat flesh.
And he says they're like never not hungry. All orcas at all time will eat anything they can get at all times.
Well, they weigh like 2 or 3 tons.
Yeah,
of course they're always hungry.
Yeah, they're massive. Yeah, they are massive as well.
Yeah,
orcas.
they're colossal.
I wouldn't want to tangle with one.
No, God no.
Mirages were frequent, we're told. Barrier cliffs appear all around us. Even in places where they knew it was deep water, they couldn't possibly be. It's just a mirage. Bergs and packs are thrown up in the sky and distorted into the most fantastic shapes. They climb trembling upwards, spreading out into long lines of different levels. Yeah.
Right. So it's very interesting how like everything like from the position of the person, it feels like everything's working against you, right? Like the landscape itself takes on a kind of sinister aspect, as if it's trying to prevent you from coming to this place. And then you've got the orcas, which is the constant, terror in the sea. That, you can't go out onto the ice without thinking, is an orca going to like smash this ice and eat me, drag me down like it does with the seals?
It's a worry at all times, and it comes back later when they're in more perilous straits than this.
Right.
That at any moment an orca could just burst up from directly beneath you.
Yeah.
And
you're in trouble.
What a terrifying thing, especially if you're camping out on the pack ice and you're asleep. You're just in a sleeping bag on the ice, which may be way less than a foot thick or 3 foot thick.
Yeah.
An orca can easily punch through that in one go.
Yeah.
Yeah, how terrifying would that be?
Yeah, that's awful. And so the entire thing takes on this kind of, like you've gone in some sort of elf land or something, fairy land, where it's like, your senses are under attack, but like you've taken LSD, and there are these dangerous animals everywhere, and so there's weird colors and optical illusions, and and the thing is, you're trapped there as well. You can't go anywhere. Yeah. So it's got a very interesting, like mythical sort of side to this.
There's really no way out. You are in the most remote places, among the most remote places you can go on the earth. Yeah. The Atlantic Ocean. It's sort of brave beyond measure. I mean, it's foolhardy, really. It's like there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity, right? Yeah. They often say you just ignore it.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like people that do. I mentioned Alex Honnold, didn't I? The free climber, solo free climber. I suppose, or some of them say, you just don't think about it.
Oh, that's lucky then.
You just don't.
'Cause I'd be thinking about it all the time.
Right. How could you? I wouldn't be able to not
yeah.
have it in the forefront of my mind.
Persistently terrified by the environment.
He says explicitly, we seem to be drifting helplessly in a strange world of unreality. So he says it again.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting you say like taking LSD or something. It's just, you're in a bizarre world suddenly.
Yeah. It feels like you've crossed over to another dimension where the laws of physics don't really apply, and now you're in it. You're not, you're not the top animal on the land, right? Because normally, whenever anything sees a human, oh God, it's a human! Quick, run as quickly as we can in the other direction, panicking. Like it's incredible. Like, whenever I'm riding my bike home or something, and I see a deer. The deer just freaks out and runs. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to hurt you, but it doesn't know, and so that's the sort of experience that humans generally have with nature. It's like actually everything retreats from us, but this is the total inversion of that. It's like nature just does not care about you at all. The environment is not here for you. It doesn't care if you live or die. In fact, it's actively trying to kill you. It's distorting the things you see, and your perceptions, your senses are all fallible, and there are these giant black monsters in the sea that are trying to eat you.
It's funny you should say that how animals always flee from humans.
Yeah.
Well, here, penguins.
Yeah, they probably don't.
They don't at all.
They don't know what you are.
They just look at you as you walk up to them. You're going to kill them. And they just like watch you. They've got no idea. They're completely, their mind's blown. They've never seen anything, any humans or any civilization or any ships.
They don't know what a human being is. Yeah. For millions of years,
right?
These penguins have been at the Antarctic, and humans haven't. Yeah.
Sometimes they'll just walk up to penguins and they're just like completely nonplussed. Don't do anything. Don't try and flee or anything. They're just puzzled, interested.
Yeah.
And they club the first one, and then obviously the penguins realise they're in danger. And they start squawking and try and get away, but they can't really because they just waddle along. They can't. But until there's a little anecdote they talk when. There's some penguins that are on much later in the story is on another little bit of pack of ice that's when they get into a situation where the pack has broken up again, and it's just out of reach of them, and like literally a few feet out of reach, and they can't get it, and it still is just looking at them, it's just staring at them, and they will kill it in a moment if they could, and it doesn't understand it's in any danger, and it's just looking at them, and they think it's funny, and it is kind of funny.
It does go to show
how naive it is, or whatever.
It does go to show you that animal responses to humans are definitely learned behaviors, right? It's definitely learned over, hundreds of thousands of years. Oh no, there's a human, quick run.
Yeah.
That's bad,
Yeah.
So it wasn't, it's not that it's some intrinsic thing that has always been there or something like that, like there's something about the form or something or whatever. No. This is animals everywhere have learned that humans are bad news. That's good.
Seals as well, often, they'll just watch as you walk up to them. They don't try and get away, or they don't seem scared or anything.
Yeah.
So you just, it's like taking candy from a baby, really.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.